ref. Actually got the ball. Good evening, Spurs faithful. And yesterday, I said we were in the thick of the action. Well, tonight we are in the eye of the storm with more than Gibbs-White. We got the here we go from Fabrizio Romero, and it looks like Tottenham are finally on Gordon Ramsay settings in the transfer market because we are cooking. And as you can see, we've brought together Soren and Luke from Spotlight on Spurs. This has been long overdue, getting him on as well. Brought Soren back this summer, as you can see. A ridiculous colour on his face right now, you know, almost as embarrassed as West Ham fans right now. He's looking after losing Kudus for 55 million. And of course, myself and Jack are back again. Jack, good evening. How are you, my man?
Just wondering who stole Daniel Levy's wallet and whether they can ever give it back, because this person's absolutely cooking, whoever has Daniel Levy's credit card. That's all I have to say, Dave. I'm just astounded. Spurs even triggering a release clause. It's all unfamiliar territory, and it feels amazing.
Oh, it's absolutely unbelievable. So look, tonight, guys, we are going to discuss the two signings. We're also going to discuss, is Daniel Levy backing up his words about wanting to win the Premier League and the Champions League with these two signings? And maybe the two of them being announced, does that send out a message to some of our Premier League rivals? We've got two great guests to discuss it tonight. Soren, returning again. How are you, my man? Been a good summer?
Yeah, been a busy one out in the fields working, hence the tan. Just going to say this. I said on Wednesday morning it would all start to kick off, and people laughed at me. I said on Wednesday morning it was going to kick off, and nobody believed me. Well, season 3 is about to begin, man. And I'll just say this. There is another one to come. There, you've heard it.
It's great to have the eternal happy clapper back. As you can see, he's clearly relishing being a Europa League champion. Luke, it's been a long time, my man. Long time coming getting you on here. How are you keeping?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad. What a day to be a Spurs fan. You know, after the Europa League journey, and then going radio silence for God knows how long. 1st of July was the date. This was the date. This was the date. Seems like 10th of July was the date we was all waiting for.
No, absolutely. Look, it's been a long time coming. I'm not going to lie. I was starting to get a bit nervous, a bit anxious, you know, about the lack of business and watching other teams bring in their star players. And then Tottenham just said, look, Dave, hold my beer, wait a minute, you know, and then announced two in the space of 24 hours. And it looks like they will be announced together. I'm guessing either tomorrow evening or maybe Monday would be better, because my beloved Kildare County are in the GA final there at the weekend, so I don't want any more transfers over the weekend. So Tottenham, please hold back this weekend. But Jack, over to you, my man. I mean, look, let's go.
Yeah, let's just get this underway. So many people in the house. Really do appreciate you all. Lots of members as well that I'm seeing. Hopefully everybody's absolutely buzzing with this news. I think we already were buzzing. It's still coming to, you know, reality with the fact that we brought in Kudus so quickly. And then for this to happen out of absolutely nowhere. I mean, Dave Nornstein, I think only just this morning was kind of talking about like rumors of it sort of happening, but then just to be hit with the here we go, it's just crazy. So yeah, out of nowhere. I mean, it even shows that the ITKs are even far behind. Maybe Soren is, you know, the one that we should be listening to more often. So maybe let's get to you first here, Soren. I mean, the big question, you know, that Dave and I have been thinking, is this, you know, finally a summer maybe where Daniel Levy starting to show some ambition here, because Spurs finished 17th last season. Maybe is this the sign that they could be panicking a little bit, that they're now starting to flex, you know, the financial muscle, starting to open up the purse strings because they don't want to finish 17th again and they have Champions League. So Daniel Levy finally showing ambition.
I think people, after when he said, you know, they want to win the league, they want to do the Champions League, people thought it was in the moment. I think that there's been a plan for quite some time, and it's all coming to fruition. There's been, or there is going to be very soon, some investment. I mean, you know what my feelings on the in the know people are. I usually take it with a pinch of salt. I was told on Monday that it would kick off on Wednesday, and I did say it on Wednesday morning about 8 o'clock it would kick off. And I was told there would be 3 signings, and 2 have come true. Whether it's, I'm not saying there will be, but I'm expecting another one pretty soon. I think there will be 3 people announced altogether, basically, and I think it'll happen pretty quickly. But yeah, I think the idea of the plan behind going forward is that they really do want to kick on. And I don't think it's, obviously just Levy. I think the time has come, people slated Ange Postecoglou off, but I think he set things in motion, and I think now is the time it's going to roll on. And it wouldn't surprise me if this season, stroke next season, we see a lot of big changes, and I think pretty soon, whether we're talking 2-3 years, I think we'll be right up there. I'm not saying we're going to win the title. I'm not going to say we're going to win the Champions League, but I really do think we'll be pushing to compete with them. And I don't think it's, a case of where we've all been wanting that League Cup. I don't think that's where the club are aiming. I think they're aiming as high as possible. The youth in there, we've got a young, talented squad. They're now adding those extra few players, and I think it's time we're going to kick on. I really do. And look, I told you we were going to win the Europa Cup. I told you how many times we were going to win the Europa Cup. None of you believed me. We are going to start winning things. That trophy cap, we've already sent a big tranny van to IKEA to get another cabinet. I'm telling you, they're expanding the cabinet.
That's where we're saving money, is on an IKEA trophy cabinet, but we're saving money.
One of those Billy bookcases.
Yeah, we're not getting an antique one of any kind.
No, we don't need an antique. Look, we're a modern club now. We're a big 6 club, or even a big 4 club. And
do we have the wage budget, though, to pay the cleaners to dust that down?
It's already been done, mate. It's already been done. That's what they've been doing for the last few years. They hired a few people in to work out how to build these bookcases. I mean, look, Swedish contingent. Why do you think Kulu's injured? He's putting up the bloody bookcases. He knows how to do them. He's been to IKEA often enough.
We just need to sign Windex as the official glass cleaner, for the Spurs stadium. Luke, it's a pleasure to share a panel with you, sir. And, the question I have is, what Rain Man kind of brought up here. This isn't the Spurs that I love and hate. What's going on? I mean, trigger, release clause being triggered. I've never seen that in a long time with Spurs. 2 big marquee signings in the same week. I mean, Luke, can you explain this? What's happened to Daniel Levy's wallet?
No one can explain it. The fandom that's been going on Twitter, on X, on WhatsApp groups has just been absolutely gone. We're all going to wake up in a minute, and actually, we haven't signed any of these players. So, absolutely crazy. And as you say, just so unlike Spurs. Like, to hear from, how refreshing is it as well? I just have to add, how refreshing is it to where you just hear nothing, and then all of a sudden, a player's signed. You don't get these hourly updates where someone goes, "Oh yeah, he's took one more step closer to the training ground, and then he's took another step." It was just like, where's that come from? Do you know what I mean? It was it 2 hours between the potential links to the here we go. So I'm still in a bit of shock, to be honest with you. I just like all Spurs fans, I'm sure, but long may it continue. And whoever has got his wallet, you keep on running, boy, because don't let him catch up with you.
I was saying the same exact thing to Dave, that it has felt like maybe the last 2 windows, a lot of the ITKs just aren't maybe in the know as much, where a lot of these just seem to happen out of nowhere, or they progress very quickly. It's kind of like what it used to be, where you probably just woke up in the morning, open the paper, or maybe just look on the TV, and then all of a sudden you find out, Spurs have signed someone. Whereas maybe in the recent years, the Fabrizio Romano era, it's just sometimes painful, where you're watching every single hour, being reported on, and, you just want it to finally get over the line. But Spurs are going old school. I agree with you there. But just as a follow-up back to you, Luke, I mean, same thing I said to Soren, right? Is Daniel Levy potentially showing ambition, off of the back of a 17th place season? Is he, to a degree, maybe kind of just going all out, maybe out of a bit of panic?
Yeah, I don't think it's panic. I think it's almost last chance saloon. Feel like he had a real big sliding doors moment in the Champions League, and the way that we reacted from that was pretty poor. And it was there for everybody to see. And then this was another sliding doors moment where you go, do you know what? If we didn't act like we should do in this summer window, we could end up being left behind for years. And he's almost got to that point now, and he's going, well, I'm not going to do what I done last time. I'm going to learn from that. And obviously the fan base have a lot of dislike for Mr. Levy, shall we say. But if he carries on acting like this, That's what a lot of people have been calling for.
Yeah.
The word on YouTube recently has been talking about being a serious club, and I don't think Spurs have acted in serious ways for a long, long time. Maybe today's the day that we change that and we kick on from here.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Dave, same question that I just asked Luke and Soren. I mean, Daniel Levy finally showing ambition. Is it Vinay that's stolen the credit card and has just gone rogue with it?
I'm not even sure, the credit card's been stolen. I think Daniel Levy's been taken away on holiday, wined and dined, to be quite frank with you, Jack. He's so relaxed. He's just carefree right now. No, look, in fairness, I've battered the board for a long time. I've been very unhappy with how they've conducted themselves under the likes of Jose Mourinho, Conte, Ange Postecoglou, Nuno, and a lot of our transfer dealings as well. Been very unhappy with it. And I've been one of them. I've been screaming for the club to show ambition. How many times have you heard me saying, look, I don't care about selling players. Get the players in the door first, and then we can worry about that. I've been given every excuse on the book why it can't happen, but it seems like it can happen. And the good thing about it is now we're creating squad depth. When it comes to Daniel Levy, look, full credit to the guy. He came out, he done an interview with Vinay, and to be honest with you, it was a bit flirtatious. It's something you would see on Married at First Sight or something like that. Where they were schmoozing each other about how much a great businessman he is, who knows more about red wine. But the statement that I just ultimately end up laughing at was, we want to win the Premier League and we want to win the Champions League. Before this season, Daniel Levy has never actually put a definitive outcome on what he's achieved, what he wanted to achieve at Tottenham Hotspur. If you go back to the interviews he done when Postecoglou was here and the famous "We've got our club back" and stuff like that, when people asked him what winning looked like, it was playing good football, trying to compete, trying to win games, stuff like that. This time around, he put a bit of a definitive outcome on it. And I was a bit hesitant to trust him because, look, saying it and doing it are two different things, And Daniel Levy over the years has given a lot of lip service, whereas this time around, credit to the guy, he's backed it up. And that was my big thing, especially with Thomas Frank coming in here as well. It's one thing bringing in another manager, but you've got to back him. Look, I think with Thomas Frank, I sort of was okay with the idea. Defensively, he will improve us. But my big worry is, what's he going to do with that forward line? Because it's not like he can coach them to be better. They're just not good enough. And for me, I've always said it needs serious investment. We have to go again and invest in it again. And to be honest, I struggle to see where they were going to do that because they already spent so much money pre-Harry Kane or post-Harry Kane to try and fix the problem. It's still not fixed. So I didn't really think they were going to drop too much more money on it, even though it needed vast improvement. And they've gone and done it. They've dropped 115 million in 2 days on Kudus and Gibbs-White, who will impact this club massively in terms of going forward, being more potent, killing teams off, putting more points on the board and stuff like that. So they've gone a long way to alleviate that problem for Thomas Frank to a large degree. And now it actually gets me really excited for the season. So my biggest problem was, are they going to back Thomas Frank in the right areas? And it looks like they're doing that, Jack. So for me, I'm going to ease off them now for the rest of this transfer window and see how they finish conducting themselves. I will say it can't stop here. Go and show a bit more ambition. Get that number 6, get that other left back. Keep pushing. You let a manager finally go into a season and fans where we can sit back and go, fuck me, 2-3 players for nearly every position there. Literally, if he doesn't make it work, this is on him. We won't have all the infights that we've had around Jose, Conte, Postecoglou, where there's been 2 splits in the debate. Because this time Frank will, and the manager finally will, have everything he needs heading into a season to make it work. So we can actually just judge the manager on his ability rather than dragging the club down and bringing all their faults in it. So fair play to him. It's one thing saying it, but it's another thing backing it up. And right now he's backing it.
Artist T saying to you, Dave, we were proven wrong. I mean, the thing... I have
no problem when I'm proven wrong. Sit here and say fair play.
We got excited by the Eze rumors, but then also, the Kudus deal kind of felt like a bit of a Levy sort of thing to do. You maybe, use that as a backup, but, 55 million also spent. You're like, oh, classic Levy negotiation skills, to get it down to the price that he wanted. But the fact that they've triggered the release clause from Morgan Gibbs-White, that's what I'm just more astounded by. They just sent the money in and, Forrest had to accept it. That's where I'm really surprised. And that's where it feels very un-Levy-like. But Soren, maybe I'll pass this to you and Luke here.
Right, just before you do, can I just talk about the release clause and triggering it just quickly?
Yeah.
Because this is something I do think people need to understand. In years gone by, Tottenham's contract negotiations are notoriously dragged out. You almost know you're getting a player 4 weeks before it happens because they're just dragging them out all the time. And what that allows to do is allow other teams to get their deal in place and hijack the deal. And that's often what happens to Tottenham Hotspur. And Morgan Gibbs-White is one that would have been of interest of many clubs, this summer. But what we've gone and done is we've gone and triggered the release clause. He's medical tomorrow, which doesn't give any teams really too much time to really come in and hijack this deal. So it's very clever from Tottenham Hotspur. And I hope they learn from this. When you want your number one targets, how many times have we sat here and said, put up the money, go and get them like Chelsea do, like Man City do, and stuff like that? We've gone and done that this time, and we're going to see the benefits of it.
Someone wants to try to find the reason, though, maybe a cynical reason for maybe why this is happening. Longeezy saying new cash injection or player sale incoming, Soren. Where's this money coming from? How come they're spending this money so quickly and all of a sudden, what's changed or what's happened?
My understanding is that there is cash injection and that there are some players to be sold as well.
Cash injection can mean two things, though, Soren.
Yeah, I think
sponsorship or stake in the club.
I don't know the answers to that one. The rumours have been that it's an investment in the club. I think if you look back to, was it November last year when Amanda Staveley had to sign the non-disclosure? I think that was kind of the start of it. Everybody's going on about, well, Levy's effed up all the chances of sales, and I don't think he has. I think from what people are saying to me that, the deal is done, basically. Wherever the money is coming from, it's basically done. And it's external and internal. There will be sales. I think there will be one big name going out, and then we'll see some more players come in. But
if they're sugarcoating me to sell one of our best players, I gotta lose my fucking mind. All the goodwill will be gone.
No, I think, look, it's one of those that with certain players that the club is looking at things differently now, and I think one or two players, if they want to go, it's just, one player wants to go, and unless he signs his new contract, I think he's gone, and I think that money will be spent on defensive side. But look, we all hear things, and whether they come true or not is a different matter. But from what I heard, it was we will concentrate on attacking to start with, and then see who goes out to replace defensive. I think if everything stayed as it is now with the players we've got, I don't think we'll be hitting too much defensive players. I think the signings will be mostly attacking, because I think Frank's quite happy with what we've got at the back, if everybody stays. But look, if Romero doesn't sign his new contract, he's gone. That's the sort of rumours that are floating about. So there'll be another defender will come in, and then possibly a number 6. But if Romero stays, I don't think we'll be getting that defender or a number 6. I think it will be probably a striker will come in next, or another attacking player. And look, there are rumours out there that he's coming from Italy. I don't know. You just never know. From what I was told, two of the things have come true already. So let's just fingers crossed. But yeah, it's just such an exciting time. And look, they're saying, lads, it's Tottenham. It's just suddenly taken a new meaning, hasn't it? It's like, lads, it's Tottenham. They're coming again.
They're coming. Yeah,
they're coming for us.
Get ready.
Yeah, it's to do is to dare. Tottenham, we're going to be there.
Yeah, Spurs are having a Hotspur summer, that's for sure.
Yeah, Luke, it's all gone Spursy.
Do you have an explanation for it, Luke? Do you believe it's just a change of heart by Daniel Levy, or is there maybe an explanation for all this? A big player sale coming, cash injection? Surely it's not just Levy having a change of mind or a change of heart.
No, well, obviously, Serene kind of covered the new cash injection in terms of them putting more money in, and in terms of that, the player sales have to come as well. You can't have a 33-man squad, which we've got, add additions, and then start wondering that we keep all these players. They have to go. It's simply numbers mean that there will have to be some that will go out the door. I'm not sure. There's it happened a few years back, didn't it, where we went and made some big signings and everyone was going, we're really going to push. And then we sold Harry Kane. You kind of gone, oh, that was where all the money came from. I don't really feel like we've got that sort of player at the moment. Obviously, Romero's one that's been quoted about, but is anyone really going to stomp up that 70 million? I'm not so sure. Atletico Madrid have seemed to have had the money there, but have gone and signed a few different players. Yeah. So we'll see on that aspect. But from a lot of the fan base, and although I think Romero's ceiling is extremely high, he's just not available enough. So if he was to be sold, getting a replacement in for him is let's say it's a lot easier than trying to replace Harry Kane, that's for sure. So I think there will be a load of players that go out the door, and that needs to happen. To be honest with you, it absolutely needs to happen because they're just going to be assets there that are just going to keep depreciating in price. Richie, Son, Gill, Solomon. I think we've probably got about 4,000 forwards at this moment in time, so we need to get rid of at least a few of them before we start making more signings. I think it's a bit of both. There is obviously some sort of cash injection there. They seem to have laid down a marker. Rumours are that it's going to be some sort of sponsorship deal that will be announced, and good on them for not announcing it. It's frustrating as fans, but we don't want people to know we've got money. Yeah. Like Nottingham Forest might not have even thought. We were sitting there kind of arguing over Kudus, give us a 5 million here, give us a 5 million there. Nottingham Forest are not going to sit there and go, cool, they might come in and take him on his release clause, and then all of a sudden we do it. So I'm glad if that is the case. And yeah, so I think it's a bit of both, but we do. I mean, there seems to be an expectation that someone else comes in fairly quickly. But if we don't get someone in fairly quickly, then we do need to get players out the door. That needs to be a priority at this moment in time, because if we go in with a massive squad, it's just going to look silly with loads of players. Reggie didn't get registered last year, and we've added to that now. So it needs to be a bit of both, I think.
Yeah. What I will say is, if it is a case where Tottenham have sourced cash injection, it's a masterstroke not announcing it. Because as soon as you announce that, you go for a player, there's an extra 10, 15, 20 million added on that straight away, which makes it harder for you to conduct your business. So if it is a case where we're making these signings and then we announce it a couple of weeks later, it's an absolute masterstroke. Imagine how embarrassed, like West Ham fans already feel like Daniel Levy has pulled down their pants. They'll have to sell that bubble blow machine, soon, once they find out we've got the cash injection, because they only took 55 million, 40 of which has to go off and pay bank loans. So, they're only really getting 15 million out of the Kudus deal to a certain degree. They will feel so embarrassed. And, potential other deals that we do, if we announce a cash injection later in this window, it's an absolute masterstroke from Tottenham, because the last thing you want to do, because you see, once the club gets taken over, straight away there's a price hike, and we're not going to get fallen into that trap. Also, with the wages we're paying as well, you'd like to think they're relatively on par with some of the others in the squad. So again, we're not going to be extorted by wages, agent fees, etc., which all dwindle your transfer pool. So it's absolutely a masterstroke if that's the case. When it comes to moving players on, though, look, Jack, you know me, I've always maintained I want to keep my best players and build around them. For me, the players that should be moved on is the likes of Baluma. The guy can't stay off balloons. The guy can't stay on the pitch half of the time. He's not committed to this football club. Someone like him should be moved on to fund it. If we bring in, say, another striker and, someone like Richarlison then should be moved on to fund that. What we shouldn't be doing is selling someone like a Romero, even if his contract is up in 2 seasons' time. Gamble. Take a fucking gamble. That's what big clubs do. Take a gamble. Play next season. Hopefully we see a massive improvement on the pitch. He's a lot more happier with his time at Tottenham Hotspur. It moves in the right direction. If not, you're still going to get good money for Romero next summer anyway. I think we'd make a huge mistake if we sell Romero under Thomas Frank, just like we did when we sold Harry Kane under Ange Postecoglou. It caused him a huge problem. If he had Harry Kane, he'd still be in the job today. If we end up selling Romero, which is our best defender under Thomas Frank, it's going to cause him problems, and it's going to be a hole that he has to try and fix. That, considering he's a defensive manager anyway, it's not really ideal. So for me, it should be by selling off the riffraff. There's no point of bringing in these players to then weaken your squad, because effectively that's what you're doing. You're improving one area, but you're weakening another. At the end of the day, when it comes to a big squad, Man City have big squads, Chelsea have big squads, Liverpool have big squads. Why can't Tottenham Hotspur? There has to be an understanding. If we want to compete in all four fronts, that's 60 games a season plus internationals. Then players are not robots. We need a deep squad. So if a player comes out, we're not sitting here going, oh, fuck me, we're losing today. We've got that muppet up front who can't fucking kick a ball. You know what I mean? At least now we go, okay, yeah, no problem. He's out. He steps in. Hopefully he's hungry. Hopefully he hits the ground running. That's the level we need to get to. We cannot be competing with these other top 6 clubs with a bare 11 and then a load of riffraff off the back of it.
I mean, it could be a cash injection, certainly, but we also know that we have a lot of financial wiggle room. We also know that we have Champions League money that, has come in, this season, which they've been waiting for a while now. Of course, you get a little bit of money for winning the Europa League. I imagine that new away kit, that all blacked out kit is probably, surpassing maybe some record sales, especially with Sonny staying for another season.
Gibbs-White on the back of that would be awesome.
So money could be coming from a lot of different areas, including maybe also this cash injection as well. We have a artist team member for 9 months saying Jack with the clean shave looks 10 years younger. Yeah, I had to do it. For some reason, I was getting...
Looks like a college kid.
I was getting some random acne, so I kind of just felt like clearing up, the face, letting my face actually breathe, for once, Artist T, get some new air into it. And then Dark Sun G, and also thanks for the longevity of support, Artist T. Dark Sun G saying, we love Forest players. Johnson and Gibbs-White reunion. Soren, you're nodding your head. I mean, Forest, we've thrown a lot of money at them before with Johnson. 60 million, though, for Gibbs-White. I think that's a fine deal, actually. I think that's actually a bit cheap, actually, for the player.
I think it's a bargain. I mean, you're getting another youngish player. What's not to like about it, really? And I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if we start seeing Johnson more through the middle with Solanke. That everybody goes on about Frank liking 2 up front. Maybe that's the answer. Solanke and Johnson. You've got that. Johnson ain't small, but he's a different type of player. And look, we've seen that he can poach. We've seen that he can score a goal. So who knows? And maybe the money coming in is from this Saudi group that everybody keeps telling us that Daniel Levy cocked up the deal with. So maybe he didn't just cock it up. Maybe it just hasn't been announced yet. Because let's not forget. I mean, I'm pretty sure if the investment's already come in, we would have had to announce it. So. Maybe they've been extremely clever and put a certain date on it and have to get the transfers in before that date to then announce the money coming in. So, it all makes sense. And we know Levy is that businessman. So, let's see. But, going back to Romero, I think it's one of those, it's not just a case of selling a player because he's 2 years, but if the player doesn't actually want to stay with us, then maybe Thomas Frank, he's spoken to him, and maybe if Romero said, look, I don't want to stay. I mean, we don't know. This is the problem. We're all speculating. I mean, it's just one of those things that he's got 2 years left, and we go on about Harry Kane, and we should have kept him and let him go for free. Well, there was fallout about that. Half the fan base said it was a great deal. We got a lot of money. We would have been nice to keep him. And the other half of the fan base was saying, yeah, we should have kept him and let him go on a free. If we'd have kept him and let him go on a free, it would have been the worst thing ever. So there's no winning. And with Romero, half the fan, maybe not half, but it's figure of speech, complaining last year that he's only played half the games. He only plays until he's about to play for Argentina. Then he's always injured and things like this, and some of the fan base were telling us he's not as good as we think he is, and others are lauding over him. So, all of a sudden now there's a chance that he might be going, and the fan base is in meltdown because he might be going. So,
well, I've been consistent on Romero.
I just think
can question all they want. I look at the Europa League final. We don't have him there. We don't win that game.
Well, I mean, you could argue if if we don't have Mickey van der Ven there, we don't win that game. Yeah. If we don't have a couple of other, if we didn't have Brennan Johnson, we wouldn't have won that game. There's a lot of ifs and buts, and I agree with you. And look, I'm a big Romero fan. I think he's, I love the way he is. I think he's arrogant. I think that's brilliant. I think he's cocky. I think that's brilliant. I think he thinks he's probably better than he is. I think that's absolutely fantastic. I don't give a monkeys if every now and again he gets a red card. He saves us more points than he loses. So, but there comes a point in a club if you're in a transition You want players that want to be at your club. You want players that are going to fight for the club. If he doesn't, to me, it's the right time to let him go. If he's behind the club and he believes in the club, then he signs a new deal and he stays. Fantastic. But we've got to get some money back, and Son's already said he wants to stay, so he's not going anywhere. Richarlison, I don't know. I mean, I think he's one that we would look at selling. Bissouma probably. I mean, we're all talking as though Bissouma's gone.
Should be.
Again, he was a player towards the latter end, semi-finals, finals. He stepped up. So maybe under Frank he'll step up again. I just think it's it's time for this club to act like a big club, and if that means either selling a player that we want to keep or keeping him and letting him go for free, then this is where the club needs to start acting.
Fair.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty excited by the fact that it has been done, this quickly. Like Dark Sun G saying, this is the fastest double deal I've ever seen us do.
Yeah.
One thing I've kind of always, been frustrated by with Spurs, Luke, is just we don't really ever seem to get the deals done, kind of during the preseason, even before the preseason. And I do feel like that goes a long way. It's nice to actually let these guys settle in, do part of the exercise, the training, get in good shape, get familiar with their teammates as well as the manager. I mean, just that last season, right? Dominic Solanke signed like days before, our first game against Leicester City. He didn't have any preseason to work with. So the fact that they have been done this quickly and before even our first preseason game, I think is also huge.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's one thing that's been labelled at Spurs. It's almost bargain bucket sort of signings, isn't it? Like letting all the big dogs go and do their business, and then we kind of see what the scraps are afterwards.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. If you need to turn around and identify who you want and who you're going to go for and who's the main signing. And if you've got to pay an extra few million, you have to pay an extra few million. But if you get them in the door early enough, they get in to do the training. Specifically with Frank, we've got a new manager coming in, potentially a new formation, a new way of playing, a new style. Our current players are going to get used to that, let alone new signings coming in as well. It just makes the whole thing. How many times do we see a player that doesn't hit some form and then we look back and go, he didn't have a pre-season behind him. He had no pre-season. Yeah. So it's such a disregarded kind of thing. But it's massive. It's absolutely massive. Because if it wasn't, then no one would come back that early for pre-season. They'd all come back a couple of weeks before and have a jolly up, and it would be great. That's not how it works. Do you know what I mean? Clubs get back so early now because it's so imperative.
Especially with a new manager that's trying to teach everybody, his system and everything as well. It's not like you're going into a scenario where, everybody's familiar with the guy. Like, you need to have everybody available to a new manager just so that you're not, hurting him down the road, like you're saying. 100%.
Yeah, and as I say, even the players that we currently have, they're going to be asked to play different ways, different formations, possibly different systems. We've spent all season or 2 seasons effectively playing with kind of a lone midfielder with 2 kind of running off. Is he going to bring more of a kind of double pivot? Is he going to go 3 at the back? So everyone needs to get in and do it early. And if it wasn't key, there are certain reasons and certain signings where it might just be worth waiting. But we seem to always wait, and I don't think it helps anyone. Yeah. So I'm glad that there's been a bit of a change of not only targets and spending money, but also looks like a bit of a change of mentality in terms of let's just see if we can get these guys in and get it over and done with.
Spot on.
Yeah. And then another thing that probably should be brought up, he's almost doing the hosting thing for me here, Dark Sun G. All we need is a left-sided center back or left back rotation option, a CDM, and a number 9. Come on, you Spurs. Dave, is that what's on the list for you in terms of what's left to be done this summer?
Yeah, I think I would like a more experienced, solid CDM option. So another left back. Look, with Destiny Udogie, the first season he played well he was outstanding up to a point, got injured, didn't have preseason last season, came back, was thrown straight back in there, got injured for a period again. We can't keep expecting this guy to play every single game next season. Yes, we've got Jed Spence, but, Porro also played 50-odd games last season. Is he going to be able to do that again next season? So you need 2 right backs and 2 left backs. So bringing someone else in for Destiny Udogie is absolutely pivotal, because if not, we'll run that guy's career into the ground by the time he's 25, because he'll just keep picking up injuries with the amount we rely on him. And as well, that experienced CDM, it was absolutely massive for Thomas Frank. Norgard was at Brentford. It gives that solidity in front of the centre backs. It allows your wing backs or your full backs and the rest of your players to get forward with that sort of defensive cover there. So I would like that option there. Look, number 9, If we don't stretch to that, I'm not going to try my toys out the pram. I do like Richarlison. I'd find it hard to let go of the pigeon celebration considering I spent so long perfecting it. But, you know, when he does play, he does contribute. He does score goals. However, if there's enough in the budget to be able to get Richarlison out and bring someone else in, I'm definitely interested for sure. Especially if it's someone like a Vlahovic, who I've been sitting here very patient for a long time, and now he's on the market. So let's strike.
Everyone's on the CDM train, but, you know, this is a good transition. Jacob Anderson, 40 months, absolutely crazy. Thank you for the longevity of support, my friend. And he's saying, I think now Spurs will get 2 players for about 30 million each. I think a left back and a striker. I think Gray and Bentancur will be the 6s this season. I love the signings so far. Big season ahead from Matisse Tell. What do you make of that? You know, Soren, that everybody wants a CDM, but I've hinted that to Dave before, that maybe Bentancur is going to be given that number 6 role, and Archie Gray, we paid 40 million for the guy. So, you know, to, you know, sort of put him that far down the pecking order and bring in another number 6 might hurt us. You know, we have also the likes of Pop Matasar, who can play deep. You have Bergvall, who can play deep as well. You know, he's a guy who can pull the strings. So maybe there's a chance we don't sign a 6.
I honestly don't think we will. I think I'm like a lot of fans that would like to see that monster 6 come in. You know, that there are a couple that are available right now, and you think, let's go get one. But is that because it's the fans' wish? I'm with you. I think Bentancur and Archie Gray will probably be given a chance. I mean, let's not forget, Frank wanted
Is Archie Gray good enough, though?
Well, look, I mean, we haven't really seen him in that position very much. I mean, we chucked him in against Liverpool, which, yeah, I mean, you know, the argument is if he's good enough, he should be able to play against Liverpool. But Liverpool were on a roll, you know, that they were playing fantastic football. Where you throw him into a team that's not great on confidence, and all of a sudden, you know, it's the first time he's really played in that position. I think every single one of our players is going to be very different this season. Under Frank, it's a totally different system. You know, we sit there and say, Richie, you know, and Solanke, I mean, to me, they were great. When Richie was fit, he was good. He just wasn't fit enough. That's the problem. But are we going to need our strikers to close down quite as much? Is it going to be that sort of same running around like headless chickens from the strikers? To me, the strikers are going to be more needed now to do what they're supposed to be doing and score the goals. And I think that's kind of why we're looking at, you know, creative and wide players, because we're going to be putting more emphasis on getting that ball into that box for our strikers to score. And again, this is where it probably comes back to someone like Brennan Johnson maybe being up front rather than on the wing. It wouldn't surprise me if, you know, if we get a striker in that's more of a, you know, that Lineker type player, or, you know, somebody that's always in the box all the time. And we're you know, the emphasis then comes on our wide players. Look, we've got Kudus, we've got Gibbs-White, we've got Tell, Odebear, Sonny if he stays. These are all players that are going to have to get down that, you know, down the wings and in the centre and spray balls. Maddison, I think Maddison's going to have a big season. Again, if he stays fit, it's going to be pivotal. He's going to be the one putting the balls through. So there's a lot of emphasis on our up front rather than necessarily looking at a monster number 6. I think this window will not be one where we sign a number 6. I'm not saying we won't in January maybe or next season, but I think he'll give. I mean, look, Bissouma. I mean, what's to say Bissouma doesn't sit in that role as well?
You can't give him another chance, lad.
Yeah, well, Sean Maddox wasn't happy with that, Soren. He's saying he's already heard us enough times. You know, the time is up. You know, we even had a conversation before that, you know, a lot of times you get clean slates, you know, with a new manager. Does Bissouma deserve a clean slate?
Well, I mean, look, I said it as much as anybody else last season that he had to go. There was no chance this lad could stay at our club. And then he goes and puts in a couple of performances like he did in the semi-final and final.
Yeah, but we're not getting into the realms of Sanchez and Dyer here.
No, but
people pull out the Real Madrid performance against Winks.
Yeah, but I think he's a better player than Winks. I mean, look, before he came to us, Bissouma was on form. He was good. And I'm not advocating that he stays. I'm not, if he goes, I'll be as happy as everybody. But it just wouldn't surprise me if under Frank, he looks at him and think he's a player that he likes. I just think, as much as we keep saying we can't keep wiping slates clean and things like this, certain players, if they perform, would suit Thomas Frank's system. And what's to say that he doesn't like the look of, or doesn't believe in what he can do with a Bissouma maybe, or like you say, a Bentancur, a Pap Sarr, or an Archie Gray. And let's not forget, Bergvall could kind of almost sit in that deep laying position and spray the balls forward as well. So, there's a lot of options in midfield for us. And I just don't see a number 6 coming in right now.
Yeah, I mean, I've hinted at it with Dave before. That is maybe something that I wonder if it's kind of just the fans, sort of manifesting it, probably rightfully so, maybe because we do need one. But I have hinted at it that maybe it is something that might not actually be in Spurs' plans. And Jacob Anderson just following up, saying, I think Gibbs-White would take some pressure off the 6th position because of his work rate. What do you make of this, Luke? I mean, is this something that we as fans are just kind of manifesting, that we're going to sign that 6 because we should, and maybe it might not actually be the plan of Spurs?
I think the fans are still, excuse me, I think the fans are still living off of last year, to be honest with you. In the Ange's system, we absolutely needed a 6. João Palhinha was the perfect player for that position. But Frank doesn't need to have a dominant 6 like that. When you're going to be better defensively, your structure is going to be better. Is he potentially going to play with a back 3? Therefore, you've got another real destroyer in the midfield. You kind of ruin it. So you need a bit more progression in there. Going to Bissouma, I was one of the ones that when we signed him, I thought we've got one of the best here. Like, he is going to be elite level. Conte basically come out and said tactically he's got no idea what he's doing. I can't see how he fits in with Frank. I can see his positives fitting in with Frank, but I can't see from a tactical point of view how you're a centre midfielder cannot operate tactically in a Frank system. That was his linchpin for everything he done, essentially. Norgard was like his son. He absolutely adored him. So I think that it will be a Bissouma route, and we keep saying 6. I don't think it will be a 6. I think it will be more of a ball playing midfielder that would come in if we get one. It's about priorities. For me, that would be a priority. I like João Gomez at Wolves. I think he's a top player. And I think Bentancur could also be that player there as well.
Yeah, I agree.
But I would worry that Sarr, Bergvall, Bentancur, Bissouma, I would worry if that's good enough when we start talking Champions League. If we're signing serious players now and we seriously want to compete, I'm not sure them 4 are good enough as an option. Even mixtures, move them all around as you like. I think we need to go and get a top central midfielder that's going to be almost the mainstay in that team, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like we only have so many guys that you can think of that are just those out-and-out ball-winning type midfielders. I think Bentancur can be that guy. I mean, he's a guy who runs all about the pitch, but it seems like he has maybe a bit more to his game where if you put him a bit higher up, have him be a bit more of a box-to-box kind of player, you get more out of him. Same thing could be said of Pop Matasar, knows how to get around the pitch, knows how to get stuck in, but maybe isn't necessarily that guy that just sits right in front of the back line to protect them. And we've already had, our conversations with Bissouma, whether he's actually good enough to really be doing that or not. And like Dave brought up before, Archie Gray, maybe not necessarily ready yet, to be that sort of guy, with his opportunities that he had in the midfield. We also have John Stokes saying next in, we're getting Gyökeres. He's also in the 40-month club. Pick up Johnny Stokes. Really, really
I would love if we
hijack that. Well, season of hijacks.
Oh, I would absolutely love it. Because also, that would bring in the goals that we need to propel us into a title race then as well. So, because that's what Arsenal are missing right now. If Arsenal bring in that striker, they're contenders next year. That's all they're missing. They've got good defensive structure, great goalkeeper, very good midfield, nice and compact, good wingers. All they're missing is that consistent goal scorer up front. If they get that, they will be title challengers. If we can whip that from underneath their nose, it propels us into that talk.
Thank you for the longevity of support, Jacob Anderson and John Stokes. I mean, you guys are a few months away from being like a long-term, sort of residency. It feels like with the Irish Hotspur, it feels like you guys are reaching like a presidential term of like 4 years of stay with us. It's very, very kind. Lee Harvey saying, wow, Dave, what's happening at Tottenham? There must be some investment come in. Thomas Frank, come on, you Spurs. I mean, Dave, someone's invested in the Thomas the Frank engine, clearly.
Yeah, look, there's, the rumors are that there's investment coming, and I think it's a case Spurs announce it later on in the transfer window and go and spend the money first so that we don't get extorted by clubs, players, and their agents. I think we're trying to do it clever here, and credit to Tottenham Hotspur. I think once we finally announce it, there's going to be a lot of players or a lot of clubs and agents that are going to feel upset by Tottenham, angry by Tottenham, could potentially come back to bite us in future transfer windows and stuff like that. But right now, where we finished 17th in the Premier League and off the back of winning the Europa League, it's we're a bit of a misnomer heading into this season. No one really knows what to expect from Tottenham. But when you bring in players like this, it gets you excited, to a large degree. So, look, and in fairness, Lee, all credit to Daniel Levy. He's getting these deals done, triggering that release clause today instead of bollocksing around going in at 30 million and then looking to add in 5 million because we win the Champions League twice running, which is never going to happen. All these unrealistic clauses. If we find a unicorn, we'll give you another 50 mil. It's absolutely ridiculous. So, look, fair play to the club. But, look, I'm all here for it, Lee Harvey. I've waited 2 months very, very patiently for these signings to arrive. And now they're coming in the door. And, one thing that we've spoke about here, and I think Luke's highlighted it today, is getting players in for pre-season and not just a week before the season starts. We done it to Solanke, couldn't really get going to a large degree compared to what he could produce. Uda Burr ended up picking up a massive injury, brought him in just before the season started. We can't keep doing this to players. If you want to, in order to help them settle in and get the best out of them on the pitch, you bring them in early, let them get their family settled in, kids settled into local schools, settled into their new house, their new environment, and then get the players settled in and integrated with the squad, the management, knowing the tactics and stuff like that, and actually give Thomas Frank a chance to hit the ground running from the off. Because in years gone by, the first 5 games we've pissed about dropping points, and as we've seen last season, every point is crucial now in the Premier League.
They got to get used to even the Spurs golf course that's not too far away.
I might tempt Harry Kane back.
Paul Markey, he's always cracked me up. If you don't know, Luke or Soren, this guy really has it out for Brennan Johnson. The next good bit of business would be to offload Johnson. Now, just maybe back onto Mohamed Kudus. Do we see him competing directly with Brennan Johnson, on the right side?
He's walking straight in. Don't put disrespect on Kudus like that. He's walking straight in. There's no competition there.
Season's top scorer going to be displaced straight away?
Yeah.
I think we're going to see Johnson up front. I'm telling you. I think he's going to change positions.
You're turning into Dermot.
No, I know, but I don't know. I just have this feeling that he'll go up front with Solanke. I mean, if you look at Frank, I mean, I'm not an expert on the way he played by far, but I from what I understand is he likes that 5 at the back, so 3 central, 2 wing backs. You've got 2 in midfield, and then you've got your wingers and your striker. 10 players. So if you've got 2 up front, then to me, if Kudus is coming in and say Sonny or Odeberg or Tell on the left, it's kind of natural for Brennan Johnson, if he does play, to go up front with, because I don't think we'll see Richie and Solanke up front, because I honestly think it'll be sort of Dom Solanke kind of heading down for Johnson to run onto.
Yeah. I think it's just going to be good to have that competition on the right. It felt like,
Luke.
Luke, you want to come in on Brennan Johnson being competed with?
I brought a Brentford fan on to do a video on my channel just to kind of get some, because obviously we all think we know, and actually we probably watched Brentford twice and we played them, and that was kind of it. So, and he was like, he doesn't play 5 at the back as much as people insisted. When he first came up, he did go 5 at the back, and in big games, he'll go to resort to that. But really last year, once they've kind of established themselves, he kind of plays a very similar formation to 4-2-3-1. Damsgaard kind of has a bit of license in that 10 role to kind of go where he likes. So you might see him drop into midfield a bit. He might then go further forward. So I don't feel like, I think it will be played. We will probably play 5 at the back in certain games, Champions League away legs, that sort of stuff. I don't think he'll kind of go to that as much as some fans think. Although I could be wrong, and you can play 5 at the back in an attacking way. It doesn't have to be defensive necessarily. He might just look at the profile of players and say, because when you look at it, the squad's very much set up to play 5 at the back. So, but he didn't do that. He kind of tried to revolutionise and be more attacking towards the end at Brentford. But for me, I've been saying it for ages, is that we need to improve the 11. And then when you improve the 11, the players that are in your 11 then become your squad players instead of keep buying squad players. So when you say Johnson starts, a lot of fans go, I'm not sure about that. Whereas if you have Kudus starting and then the last 20 minutes you bring in Johnson off the bench, then that all of a sudden you're like, he could definitely nick one. And your whole mentality sort of changes. So I think there'll be enough minutes floated around for a lot of the players anyway. But I think Kudus comes in and he starts. It's the Morgan Gibbs-White one that's interesting for me. I think he's a great player. It'd be interesting to see where he falls into this. Does he not consider Maddison East 10? Does he consider Morgan Gibbs-White? Gibbs-White play a little bit deeper? Does he even play him off the left? Maybe it'd be interesting to see him. But I think Kudus will be that right hand side man.
I think when you're saying, look, I think Kudus walks straight in. I think it's night and day, the ability, the dribbling ability, something that we've missed from Brennan Johnson for large parts of last season. Look, the guy ended up the top goal scorer, Europa League winner. Respect. And to be fair, I like these antics on the stage after, it shows a bit of character and stuff like that. I do like that. But he's not good enough to carry a Tottenham team on the right-hand side over the course of a season, in the starting lineup. We've seen that. I think for me, I'm okay. I think the plan is Kudus to run them ragged and Johnson to come in and finish them off, and I think there's still a role at this club for Brennan Johnson. But I also think it's a good thing for Brennan Johnson. Hopefully it helps him develop his game now that there's competition there, because sometimes when you have no competition,
can't be too comfortable.
Think you're the cock of the walk. You're going to play. You don't really sort of have that drive to go and improve yourself. You almost get into a false sense of security, take it back. You're on easy street for a while. Whereas all of a sudden, when you bring in a player and you automatically know you can't really do what he does, you all of a sudden then have to go and improve your game and find different assets that you can bring that maybe he doesn't. Johnson isn't just going to survive at Tottenham long-term solely on just running in the back post and tapping goals in. If he wants to be long-term at Tottenham Hotspur, he is going to have to add to his game. And at the end of the day, adding to his game will benefit Tottenham Hotspur. So I think it's a good thing here. I think Luke's absolutely spot on. Kudus to run them ragged, destroy the fullback. By the time he's taken off, the fullback, has stars. He's seeing stars. He can't even see straight. And then Johnson just runs in at the back post, taps it in, and finishes off teams. This is what a squad is about, having these different type of options for different scenarios and stuff like that. Doesn't mean we have to go and sell Johnson. Now, don't get me wrong. I'll give him one more year. If I don't see the improvements I need to see from him, then I would consider cashing in. But look, I think it's a good thing. I think Kudus walks straight in, and hopefully Johnson can drag himself to the next level.
I think it's
also worth saying that he wanted him as well.
Yeah.
Frank wanted him at Brentford. So this isn't, and there's been a few people I've said that to, and they're like, yeah, well, it is Brentford. But if a manager wants you at whatever level, if he wants you and then he becomes your manager, you know that you've got some sort of confidence in him. So either he sees something that most of us don't see, or do you know what I mean? There must be something in him that he thinks he can get a tune out of.
I'm just not sure on the whole striker scenario though. Like when I look at the way the Premier League's returning for a while there, right? Everyone was like, look at Pep Guardiola, he doesn't need a striker. He didn't play with a striker because he couldn't get Harry Kane out of Tottenham that summer. So he came up with a different plan. But as soon as he had a chance to revert back to getting your old traditional big striker up front, he went and bought Haaland, And I think, we're starting to get back to that era now where there is a recognition that you do need that big guy up front to be able to put the ball away. That's why you're seeing a resurgence of the likes of Chris Wood. When he first came through, he was a nobody. Nobody looked at him because there was a plethora of strikers around. Now there's a dearth of strikers around. People all of a sudden look at Chris Wood and see the value in having that, and everyone wants to get back to that situation. For me, someone like Brennan Johnson, he's not ever going to be a top 6 striker. He doesn't have the strength, doesn't have the body frame, can't hold up the ball with his back to play and stuff like that. He's purely relying on balls in behind. And people go Vardy, but Vardy also had other assets to his game where he could drop in, take the ball, lay it off, spin in behind, stuff like that. We don't see that from Brennan Johnson. And I just don't think he's ever going to have the stature or the size or even the footballing brain to ever be a competent striker at a top 6 club in the Premier League, to be honest with you. And I don't want to get back into the realms where we've done with Dyer. Can't play right back, can't play CDM. So what we'll do, make a centre-back out of him. I'm fed up with that era at Tottenham Hotspur. We can't keep doing that. If he's not good enough for right wing and the next guy comes in and he's good enough, because I'd argue if Udabur, makes progression this year, that could be Johnson out of the team altogether or surplus to requirement. So for me, I'm okay with getting to this level, but I just don't understand the striker talk. He's not a guy that can play centrally. He just doesn't have the attributes.
I do like that Kudus offers something very different, and that he's definitely more of a creative type of winger compared to Johnson, who really was just about scoring goals at being at the right place at the right time. And, on terms of maybe the return of the quote unquote number 9, I think that just had to do with, every single team started to just put every man behind the ball against, teams like Guardiola's that were playing such possession based, creative midfield, type of heavy type teams. And the solution to it was just put every man behind the ball, make it really crowded in the penalty area. And that's going to make it really hard to try to play some of those intricate kind of passing routines and patterns and whatnot. You just have to eventually just resort to just putting balls into the box, which means you need somebody in there that can actually win those duels. And I think it's been a good change actually for football to see the return of the striker. Dermotron saying, first, has someone hit Levy over the head? What a day to be a Spurs fan. Big up, guys. Come on, you Spurs. That was kind of our first big question, Dermotron, is who's stolen Levy's wallet? Has Levy just had a change of heart? Has there been a big cash injection? That's definitely been the major part of the discussion, today was what's happened to Daniel Levy.
I'll tell you the theory I've got is the same people that are doing this are the people that hacked Shawnee. So, all the money's come from Sean.
We're going to start wrapping up the show here. I know Luke has to go. Soren also as well. We told we'd only keep him on for an hour. We do try to be somewhat, true to the time, that we tell people that we'll be on for. Maybe just one last sort of important question, for everybody to answer. And I know Soren touched on it, a little bit briefly there. I'm glad he did. He's doing my hosting for me. But, in terms of where's Morgan Gibbs-White actually going to play, guys? Do we see him? I mean, technically, James Maddison, right, might be injured for the first part of the season. Kulusevski could be injured for the first part of the season. But when those guys return, there's going to be a lot of competition, in those creative areas. Luke or Dave maybe want to come in on it?
Gibbs-White, for me, Gibbs-White is, he's not as good as Gerrard or a Lampard, but I would look at someone like a Gerrard who, if you wanted to play centre midfielders that I can sit in there and rough things up, turn ball over, I think he can do that. But I think what mainly you get out of Gibbs-White is a player that breaks from midfield and scores and adds goals. That's something that we've been lacking at Tottenham Hotspur and been crying out for a long time. Papa Matasar can do it, but not on a consistent enough basis, whereas Morgan Gibbs-White offers you that on a consistent basis. He can break out of midfield and he can either play people in or score goals. 7 goals, 8 assists in the Premier League last season for a Forest team that sit in and campaign. So that shows me that not only can he do that dirty side of the game, I think he's got what I like about him, I think he's got a similar temperament to sort of Dele Alli. Likes that bit of aggression, likes to get stuck in a bit of shithouse. But then he's also got the ability on the ball then to go and back it up and piss them off even further. I think the one thing I look at that maybe he offers completely different to the rest of Tottenham's midfield is the ability to be able to spray passes around. He's not a guy that needs to pass it 5-10 yards and stuff like that. That guy can pick up the ball, release people down the channels, release people over the top. He gives you that different ability in that midfield, that player that almost people go, you can't stand off. And as soon as he gets the ball, you have to get out to him. That then creates space for others then to run into and Gibbs-White to play into. So for me, I think that's maybe the difference he adds compared to the rest of the Tottenham midfield. But the type of player he is a midfielder that breaks out and adds to your attacking play.
Did you make the case that Gibbs-White's an even better midfielder than James Maddison, Luke?
He's a more complete midfielder. So as I said earlier, for me, he could play in the two. We need to realize as well, because when you're playing in the Champions League, you might have a game tomorrow where you play Real Madrid away, but then you may also be playing Burnley at home. Mm-hmm. They're two completely different games. So you might go into having two sort of defensive-minded players in your midfield, whereas actually when you're playing, say, Burnley at home, you may go, no, do you know what? We need to have, say, Bentancur and a Morgan Gibbs-White will be enough with James Maddison in front of them because we're not going to be expecting to be on the back foot. So for me, he can play in a variety of positions. He could play in that midfield. He could play just behind the striker. He can probably play wider as well if we've got wing backs that are overlapping. if Frank does resort to playing 5 at the back, where he plays a striker and 2 10s, he's perfect for that. He could be one of the 10s playing just behind a striker. So I feel like he's got a bit of versatility where he could play in several different roles. He could play in different formations. And I really like the way that he is as a player. As you said, that you've already mentioned it about Dele Alli. He's got that sort of arrogance. He's got that sort of spite, but he's also got that quality where he can provide. We always had it. If Maddison didn't play last year, we struggled to really create if it wasn't Porro. Kulusevski sometimes, but they were the main creators. Whereas if Madders is out, you know that Gibbs-White's got the quality there to be able to play them balls in. So I think, as I say, I wasn't saying, when I said I don't see where he fully fits in, I wasn't saying I don't think he'll start. I'm just saying it'd be really interesting to kind of work out whether, does Frank actually see him? No, you're going to be more of a central midfielder. You're going to dominate for me. Does he see him more of like someone coming in off the hand side, like Eze sort of type? I think it'd be interesting to see, but I think he's a top player.
No, I think you echoed a lot of what Dave and I actually said in our Welcome to Tottenham video for Gibbs-White, that he's a bit more complete than Maddison. I completely agree with you on that one. I really like James Maddison after last season, but I do agree with you that he's a bit more robust, more industrial, maybe is another way to say it, about Gibbs-White. And what you mentioned is also what Dave and I were happy to talk about, which was, if you lose someone like James Maddison, it has really hurt, Spurs in the past. But then if you have someone like Gibbs-White still around, that he can do kind of the Maddison type role for him or in place of him. So absolutely spot on. Agree with all your points there. We've also put in your channel here, Luke, for you to give yourself a plug. I think you said in the that you have to go. So thanks for a wonderful shift. It was wonderful to share a panel with you for the first time. And tell us a bit about your channel, please.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on. So I've only just started. I've only been around the scene sort of like 3 months. Kind of came onto the scene as a backer of Ange, and was kicked to the curb quite quickly until we won the Europa League, and now I seem to be the one smiling a little bit. But yeah, so I go live. I go as I say, only just started, so I just go live every Thursday, 9:30 every week, talking all things Spurs. Couple of days ago, it seemed like a bit of a quiet one. I was scratching my head trying to find some subjects to kind of talk about, and then today we've got a week's worth of content all in a few hours. So we're going live at about 9:30.
From nothing to talk about to almost too much to talk about at this point. And that show's coming up. So please, everybody, subscribe over there. In about 30 minutes time, go ahead and join him, please, and show him some support. And thank you, Luke. Great shift, my friend. Good to have you with us.
Let's do what we do best. Get over there in your jobs, guys. Get over there, smash that subscribe button, and then pop back here for the finish of the show. Luke, really appreciate your time. No busy day with working and family life. So thank you very much, my man. We'll let you drop out. Don't want you to be in the doghouse or sleeping on the couch. And we'll see you again very, very soon, my man.
See you later. Cheers. Thank you all.
Thank you, my man.
Bye-bye. Guys, make sure you get over and check out Luke. Really enjoyed his input today. Very nice guy as well. So get over and check that out. Soren, are you good to stay for the next couple of minutes, or do you need to?
No, I'm all right. Till about 9:30 or so. So
we're wrapping up.
Yeah. So, I will just say with Morgan Gibbs-White, I think a lot will depend on the setup that Frank does. I think his position will change quite regular. What's to say if we do play a 3 at the back, we don't play something like Maddison and Gibbs-White together in the centre, a bit like we did with Kulu. That sort of more creative midfield. And again, I think with Frank, he seems to be the type of manager that changes depending who he's playing. If we are playing a Liverpool, for argument's sake, then we'll maybe be more defensive. If we're playing, I don't know, something like Leeds or whatever, then, we'll be more attacking. So I think you'll see quite a few of our players play in different positions. And I think Morgan Gibbs-White will probably be one of those. You might even see Maddison move more to the left as well. So
be interesting. Look, that's the thing with some of our signings, some of them are versatile, can play in multiple positions. So it'll be very interesting to see what Frank does. But the good thing is, don't have too long to wait for some preseason games to see, maybe get an input into what Frank is, what his mind is conjuring up.
Plenty of love for Gibbs-White, in terms of, where he'll play. People are just saying he's already just outright better, than some of the midfield. That's what you need, just having someone who can basically just already, be a shoe-in, into that midfield. Jerome, good to see you, sir. Hopefully you're feeling a lot better about this transfer window, as Dave is as well. Saying finally showing some ambition. Now go and get Eze for me to be very happy with this window. We need a good DM and a left back. Then we can finally compete. We had a conversation earlier, Jerome. I mean, I think it was probably about 20-ish minutes ago where we were discussing whether we actually will even be signing a defensive midfielder. I think we should, but there is a possibility that we don't because we already have so many midfielders as it is. And, we do have the likes of Archie Gray, even though plenty of us don't necessarily think he's ready and has shown enough in the midfield. We did spend a whole lot of money on him. So you wonder if he's going to be given that chance under Thomas Frank. I think Luke or Soren even mentioned before, like Thomas Frank wanted Archie Gray too, like at Brentford, right? So you wonder if he does have plans for him in that midfield, in that number 6 role. And in my opinion, I know a lot of people think that Bentancur isn't a 6. I thought he had a lot of very, very good games playing as a defensive midfielder for us. So I tolerate it, maybe not having a defensive mid, but I know some people wouldn't. A lot of people feel like that's one of the most important signings for this window. Some people even had a DM above even signing like a forward or a winger, for this team. I was in the winger camp, but I know a lot of people felt like the defensive mid was the most important signing of the window.
I'd argue. I think Eze's dead in the water now that we've got Gibbs-White and he's that sort of central breakout player. That's an area people have looked at. Eze Kudus can also play there, but also play out wide. Eze could have played out wide for Tottenham as well. So to be honest with you, I think them 2 signings puts Eze dead in the water.
Yeah.
Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, Drew. I don't want to defecate on your dreams, but I'm sorry. I think Eze is now dead.
If you get Kudus and Gibbs-White together, almost makes up for an Eze in a way, right? It kind of Eze is like all creative winger, can play through the middle as well, creates and scores. Kudus is going to be more of the creative winger type who we would imagine, down the road would probably try to score more goals. But then Gibbs-White is all action midfielder that can play through the middle. So it's almost like we filled that Eze hole with these 2 signings.
I think if Eze was coming, he'd have come last year.
Yeah.
That was the time for him to probably come. But I think it's just a popular thing, let's chuck a name in. Eze's the popular one at the moment. So
yeah.
I don't think there was any plans of Eze coming. As much as it's been that it's looked like we've touted him and things like this. There's an obvious reason we haven't signed him. So whatever that is, he isn't coming.
Yeah,
I'd be surprised if he did.
Yeah. Sorry about that, Jerome. We're just going to have to let you down. Maybe just a little bit off of your high.
Go and have a beer, Jerome.
Signings. Yeah, definitely look at the Gibbs-White highlights, though. Look at some Kudus highlights. As we're wrapping up, just want to say thank you for all the support here, everybody. Legend. We have plenty to be chatting about, plenty of content coming your way. So don't go anywhere, please, everybody. But want to say hello to some people that did pop in towards the end here and also just some good comments. Lazy Hate saying plethora and dearth in the same sentence. Dictionary reading really starting to pay off, Davo. Do you have it by your bedside?
Yeah, I do, lad. You know me, I'm always trying to educate myself, become a better person. But, I wonder how many other people fell off their chair when I know my dad's head is probably spinning when he heard them 2 words out of my mouth.
And then Jacob Anderson saying the system suits Tell as well as Decky when he plays on the wing. The team is a lot more versatile with these 2 signings. I expect at least 10 goals from Tell as well. And Kudus this season. He did mention, Matisse Tell, big season ahead for him. Jacob Anderson seems to have a lot of love for that guy. Sean Maddox saying, so excited now that things are kicking off. Thomas the Frank engine is picking up some steam. Choo, choo, choo. He's not stabilizing us, Sean. He's kicking us on by the looks of things with these big money signings. He's getting some oil in the engine. And then future, good to see you as well.
The coal for the Frank engine is not sustainable, Jackson. They're going to have to come up with new ways of keeping that train on the tracks.
Yeah. Everybody, thank you for all the support. Smash the like button on your way out, please. Thank you for all the generous super chats as well as just good comments from people in the chat. Soren, thank you to you for another excellent shift here with us. And I'm also enjoying, your new ITK form, the man that's in the know all of a sudden. I didn't know it was in you. Didn't know it was possible.
Dermot be ringing him straight after this.
Any final words, Soren?
Just wait for the next one. There's another one coming. Things are exciting. And look, come on, you Spurs. It's the team we love. It's the team we support. And hopefully maybe, just maybe, this season is the season where the fan base almost unites back together again.
That'd be lovely.
You know, let's get rid of all the toxicity from last season and just get behind the team and actually enjoy the roller coaster. Yeah. I think, you know, there's going to be more days like this where the excitement and the buzz and, you know, the belief in the club is coming back. So, yeah, I just think this season coming and the next season and the next season, it's going to be a change. There's a change in the air. There's a change in the air, lads. So just believe.
I feel like I can go to bed dreaming of silverware again. You know, I feel like we've got some players to be able to achieve it. You know, especially if we double down and keep my Romulus. You know, I think, you know, I'm sitting there going to bed every night dreaming of trophies, waking up with morning wood. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I will say quickly is, you know, if we don't get off to that big start, don't lose faith. Just, you know, it will come. You know, there is every chance that we might lose a couple. And look, we've already got a cup coming up. We're going to bag the Super Cup against that pub team from bloody France. You know, I see it being one of those games where there's going to be a lot of goals, and we're probably going to come out like a 10-0 winner. You know, I don't think they've got any decent players in that squad, so we're all right. But look, yeah, just keep the faith this season. Don't lose faith, and big things are coming.
Yeah. I was going to say to you, Soren, like from one happy clapper to another, I think you and I were always just, I mean, I think I told you that when we had won the final, it felt like, you know, kind of everyone's shoulders, you know, as Spurs fans, you know, just were going to relax, you know, to some degree. Like we just didn't have to be as, you know, at each other's throat all the time, you know, for how do we get this, you know, trophy, you know, off of our back, you know, this trophy hunt. And I did feel like, though, this summer, like just with the lack of activity, you know, not really any reports of anything going on, you kind of start to see fans, you know, kind of get back towards, you know, the frustration point, and maybe rightfully so. But, you know, these signings, I think, have just reminded people of, you know,
I think if you looked at
feeling it again.
Yeah, I think if you looked at it from the moment we won the cup, I mean, everybody kind of expected, oh, the window's open, we're going to sign somebody straight away. And then obviously you get a little closed bit of window, then it opens again. And 1st of July was going to be the day. But I always felt there were bigger things happening behind the scene. And until that was sorted out, nothing would move. And I think everything behind the scenes is kind of in place now. You know, the most important thing was probably getting Frank in and getting the coaches and the back team that he wanted, and making sure that was all sorted. The players have been identified that he wants, and you know, some of the players that he probably wants to keep and things like this. And I think everything's just starting to fall into place now.
Hopefully.
And, you know, I honestly do think, like I said to you before the final, that it just feels different. It really does just feel different. And it feels like a time that it's whether we support the manager, you know, I mean, there are people out there that didn't want Frank. There are people out there that still wanted Ange. There are people that wanted Levy out. Now it's Levy in. And, you know, all the jokes aside, it's all about getting behind the team now. That's all that matters. It's, you know, let's all get back together. Let's all forget the arguments that we had, and just move on. This is the beginning of something new.
Yeah.
I'm getting excited. I am getting excited. I'm not gonna lie.
I agree with you, though. I think part of that frustration also maybe just came from the fact that we then sacked Ange. You know, we took a while to then bring in Frank. All these other, you know, sort of appointments needed to be made in the coaching staff, you know, and it just felt like our Spurs going to do the classic, you know, wait maybe too long to get the ball rolling, and then we end up sort of hurting ourselves. And we haven't, you know, I think by getting these two massive signings in, actually, it's given me a lot of assurance that, you know, we're not going to be on the back foot as much as we have been in summers in the past. So good points from yourself there, Jerome. Slipped there. Soren. Jerome, though, saying, don't kill my dream, guys. We still need that DM and a left back to somewhat be happy with the window. We kind of did, you know, sort of kick Jerome in the stones there by saying we might not get an actual DM through the door, and we might not be able to. I think we know we're not getting Eze, but yeah, we're doing our best to take Jerome off of his pedestal, off of his cloud nine here.
Yeah.
Dave, I mean, the left back though is crucial. That does have to happen. That's not a conspiracy or anything. Like, we do have to sign one.
Yeah, you can't keep running Destiny Udogie into the ground. It's not fair, you know. People already last season, oh, is he as good as we say he is? The guy had no preseason, off the back of surgery, no left back over the summer, which is neglect. Destiny Udogie, out you go again. Play another 50-odd games, which he couldn't do. It's just not fair on the kid. He's going to keep breaking down. You're going to ruin his career with the amount of injuries he's going to pick up because the amount of games they're playing him through. It's neglect. You have to bring in that left back and give the guy some rest at times. So big up Jerome on that. Look, it's absolutely necessity at this point. But big up Jerome. Maybe not Eze, but, you know, I'm still looking at maybe Robinson from Fulham. Could we pull that one off? That would be nice. Big up Jerome.
Appreciate your support, my man. And thanks to you guys. Please look out for all the other videos. We'll have Welcome to Tottenham already out for Morgan Gibbs-White. I think we'll do some Twitter reacts again for him. You know, the Twitter reacts we did for Kudus quickly got overshadowed by all this Gibbs-White news in a very good way. But please, if you want to check that out, feel free to follow us on the other socials as well. And we'll see you very, very soon for more and more transfer content. And then also next week, preseason, get ready, everybody. The games are coming back thick and fast. Thanks to Moondog as well. Big up, lads. Am I dreaming that 2 players in? Like, I think what's more ridiculous, Moondog, is the fact that we actually triggered a release clause. I don't remember the last time. Maybe Pedro Porro was one that we might have triggered a release clause for, but I'm still a little bit shady on that one because I think there was.
We hustled over Porro, didn't we?
Yeah, we had to have Levy fly in, you know, to.
Well, I think the thing with Porro was it was Sporting that was slowing it down because they wanted him for the final, didn't they? And
well, they also needed the payment done a certain way as well at the time.
Yeah, so I think that's why. But I don't think we triggered the release clause with him.
No. Yeah, it wasn't bang, you know, like this one, you know, just happened just like that. Even though Soren was saying, Moondog, that maybe these deals were kind of already being, you know, lined up before we had any clue, because it does seem like a lot of the ITKs have been maybe I don't know, just a bit more in the dark than what they usually are to some extent. So Moondog, it feels amazing, man. It's crazy to see big money signings happen in succession like that. I mean, Spurs rarely even sign anybody, you know, in this quick succession, let alone, you know, big marquee signings like this.
You can tell Charlie can put away Google for these 2 signings, Moondog. And, you know, we've signed some players that he could be excited about, excited to see on the pitch next season, and hopefully give him a club that he can be proud of. The one that you remember, Moondog. Big yourself up, buddy. Look, I'm afraid I end up waking up tomorrow and they've been hijacked somehow and shit like that. I just need to see them in the jersey now and announced. But big up, Moondog. Hopefully that announcement is coming twice tomorrow. You know, with Gibbs-White, Kudus, announced Friday evening. Spurs fans then can go get on the beers for the weekend. No, next season, another European trophy is on its way, my man.
Or it's just the most lucid dream, you know, ever. And we're finally going to wake up at some point. Big up, Moondog. Really appreciate the support. And we'll see you all next time, everybody. Come on, you Spurs. Welcome to Tottenham Hotspur. Mohamed Kudus and Morgan Gibbs-White. Feels so good to say.
Let's go. Yeah. Come on, you Spurs. See you all tomorrow.